Hey, y'all.
Hey, Tammy.
Tammy, thank you for joining us. Why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you're running for?
Well, thank you first and foremost for having me. I am Tammy Allison. I'm an attorney, a former senior Department of Justice attorney, worked at the Office of the Pardon Attorney, former federal prosecutor, and also a former senior attorney with the Federal Bureau of Prisons. So I launched my law firm, The Pardon Attorney, in November of 2020. And a lot has happened in the 5+ months since then. And most recently, I'm running for Congress in the special election right here in Texas's District 6.
District 6? Where is District 6 in Texas?
So that is Tarrant County, Navarro County, and Ellis County. Most of you guys are familiar with Cowboy Stadium. It's where Cowboy Stadium is. That's where Tarrant County is.
Oh, wow.
Awesome. Yeah. So big shout out to everybody who's tuning in from Texas. And if you live near Cowboy Stadium, remember you have an election on the 1st. So don't space on that. Go out and make sure that you vote for a pro-cannabis candidate. Wait. Tammy, what is your position on cannabis?
I'm very pro-cannabis. I'm pro-Second Amendment and cannabis. You know, a lot of people are shocked because it's like you're running as a Democrat in Texas and, you know, you're pro-Second Amendment and you're pro-cannabis. Like, make it make sense. But I'm sleeping on your girl. I'm making it make sense, but I don't know. They're not listening. A lot of people are so fake woke. They sleep. But we're going to try to wake them up, though, right?
Right.
That part.
That seems like it's weird. Like, right, you're a Democrat, you're in Texas. Like, this seems like this already in their head. Like, God forbid you have this like progressive idea of like, yo, I want guns. I want guns, and I want the gay guys with guns to protect their garden.
Yeah, why not, right? And here in Texas, like Tom mentioned, you know, cannabis has been legalized for medical use only since 2015. But what I've been telling people throughout my very short campaign, because it's a special election, is that a lot of individuals that could qualify for the legal use of medical marijuana here in Texas, they are not able to, especially the veterans. And what happened is, of those medical illnesses that Texas allows, they do not allow individuals with PTSD to use cannabis. And as we all know, a lot of our beloved veterans have PTSD, and they've been fighting for a long time for the legalization of their use of cannabis. And even those people that can get that medical marijuana card in Texas, guess what? If you have that card, you automatically cannot possess a firearm in Texas.
Damn.
That part.
Oh. Yeah, the card issue is very peculiar. And this is one of the things that I've always been kind of upset by when it comes to cannabis and guns, and then the NRA, who's purportedly out there trying to support the lawful ownership of guns. If you fill out this ATF form for the license transfer or the license sale of firearms, I believe it's like ATF form 4735, something like that. I'd have to find the particular one, but there's a box you have to check. And so you check your box and you incriminate yourself and you disqualify yourself. And so that form violates your Fifth Amendment right against, self-incrimination. So it's unconstitutional. And then also it prejudices the exercise of your Second Amendment right. Why the NRA has not like gone to bat for just knocking out this form is beyond me and bizarre. So I'm glad that you're standing up for gun owners' rights and cannabis users' rights. You know, it's okay to have a gun if you like weed.
You know, that's what I'm trying to push for. And the thing is when I tell people about Texas's Compassionate Use Act, a lot of them don't even know about it. So beyond just the people that want to use it for medical purposes, the business ownership aspect of it is kind of being blocked for underrepresented groups, including those veterans. And as far as the NRA, you know, the NRA is like, it's twofold, right? I kind of feel like they come in whenever it's a good look for them and they kind of sit back and stay quiet whenever it's not so much. But the NRA actually has on their website a lot of good language on there for individuals that do have convictions, which is where my expertise is, presidential pardons. Because right now, the only way to legally possess a firearm with a federal conviction is through a presidential pardon. So when I launched, I became the first minority-owned expert in presidential pardons and the third ever. But I'm the only person that brings up these nuances that kind of speak to underrepresented groups, which is anyone that lacks, access to socioeconomic status or, race, gender. So I'm really trying to hone in on that by talking about the importance of ownership, not only the use of it, because Texas is definitely trending towards legalizing marijuana in Texas, just like Virginia. Who would have thought Virginia,
What
right?
you need to do, like, I love that. It's kind of like a sneak attack. You go, guys, we're going to vote for this, but it won't be effective for 3 years. Oh, well, 3 years from now, it should be legal by then. We'll figure it out. No problem. So Texas needs to just say, guys, we're going to legalize it in 3 years. Well, why don't we pass it in 3 years? Well, let's just get it out of the way now. Virginia legalized it so quick. It wasn't it was like a blip on the radar that just came up. Like, it's done. Yeah.
That's a Commonwealth state. I don't even think people understand, Tom. Like Virginia.
Right.
So,
I'm
sorry.
I would say Texas is like this last election almost turned purple. Like everybody was kind of like all apprehensive. And again, we have these perceptions of like this is how an absolute way of things are going to be. People like data, and I was wondering like because Texas was one of the biggest states. Like you drive through Texas, you're like, okay, here goes a week. But you know what I'm saying? It's just so big. But like I wonder, and Texas love their guns, and Texas love their alcohol. So I'm wondering what the numbers are like accidents that happen with guns and alcohol versus accidents that now that you have like the medical with the 0.5, like how much craziness happened with that legal marijuana and guns? None, probably.
Who knows? None. The thing is that I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but Dallas, which is outside of District 6, that's Dallas County, they just announced that they're no longer going to be arresting individuals that have 2 ounces or less of marijuana. Unless, of course, they have a firearm with them, which speaks right back to my second issue of guns, because a lot of people don't realize what gets a lot of people caught up in the criminal justice system is that second offense of possession of a firearm. If they had, like you said, we're going to go to jail for a smell, but it's the gun charge too. So, we're trying to push for reform on all of those issues, but people have to understand that it all ties in together and that there's an ownership component that can put a lot of money in our pockets if we start talking about the language the right way. Tom and I talked about how, when we talk about the ownership part, it's cannabis, right? But when we talk about people going to jail for a smell, it's marijuana.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We gotta
you probably see it too as a pardon attorney. Like these cases, like it's not just a weed case, right? Like, oh, you had gun on you, or you're close to a school zone, so you must be a, racketeering something or another. Like there's always trumped up shit on top of it. Money laundering. Like you're like, I'm just trying to sell weed.
Listen, and that's the crazy thing about it, right? A lot of people don't understand that when we talk about, Texas is trying to be next on the constitutional carry. For me, I'm like, that's actually a good thing because we're going to see less people in underrepresented groups getting these charges of possession of a firearm without a license to carry. Because a lot of these gun control measures that were put into place literally were put into place to block underrepresented groups from legal possession of a firearm. So whenever we're seeing things like constitutional carry, listen, that's going to help with criminal justice reform.
Oh, yeah.
You cannot be for criminal justice reform, but be against constitutional carry.
Well, you know what, Tammy, thank you for joining us. And we have a story about HR 2830. But first, we kind of spaced on the date. We're way past 20 past the hour. So that means that it's got to be 420 somewhere by now. So with that, I'll be right back, everybody. So there's a new GOP Congress bill that would protect marijuana consumers' Second Amendment rights. This is coming out of the marijuana moment. Right. So it's HR 2830, the Gun Rights and Marijuana Act, filed on Thursday by Rep. Don Young, Republican from Arkansas, and 2 GOP co-sponsors. It adds a short provision to existing federal law specifying that the term unlawful user or addicted to any controlled substance shall not include a person by reason of unlawful use or addiction to marijuana. So what do you think about that, Tammy?
I feel like he was heavily influenced by my issues on my little campaign over here, because I've been screaming this since March 3rd when I announced my candidacy. So, wow. Obviously, I'm for it. I have to support it and respect it, because individuals that are smoking cannabis, they should not be prevented from the lawful possession of a firearm, because the the amount of a sentence that you get when you have a firearm conviction on top of something else. It is crazy, especially on the federal level. 924C is the statute. It's like mandatory minimum 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was something that we definitely need to have a conversation about.
I got mixed emotions over the title though, guys. Like, so Gun Rights and Marijuana Act, like, sounds great. And the acronym's GRAM. The GRAM Act. Come on. It's a weed.
You always have to have a silly acronym for your act. It's how it works. It's Congress.
Well, no, because they did that in 2019 when they first tried to introduce the Cannabis Legalization Act. It was what, HR 420?
HR 420. Yeah, of course. They gotta do something silly. Well, if we go to Michigan and we look at their rules and regulations for marijuana, you know what rules we have to go to?
Which one?
Rule 420. Yeah, of course.
Shit.
But it doesn't matter. Like, I think that it's an interesting, by what it does, it would say that that's unlawful useful person shall not include marijuana. So that creates an exception. That's great. And it's also by a couple of Republicans. And so that's true. I mean, like, there you go. That's real action by them. And it's also an opportunity to be bipartisan. And so, like, all right, so now that why are you going to uncheck that box but keep it a crime is just a little mean. It's like, well, let's let it be so they can have guns, but we're still going to keep it a crime for the smell. You're like, well, why stop there,
But isn't it kind of like the MORE Act that did pass the House that's awaiting, Senate to vote on it? The MORE Act talks about replacing the term marijuana from the United States Sentencing Guideline and replacing it with cannabis. But it doesn't talk about any type of retroactive sentencing guidelines that can address those individuals that are still currently incarcerated for marijuana offenses. Slapping a cute word like cannabis on top of it doesn't change anything. I think that there needs to be a simultaneous way to address the ownership of cannabis business while also talking about getting the people that are in prison a reduced sentence or let them out the same way they did in 2014 with the crack and powder cocaine disparities. That was a retroactive sentencing guideline amendment. Something very similar to that needs to be introduced because I think that will serve both parties' purpose. Both the Democrats and the Republicans can be happy, and it's going to take bipartisan effort. And that actually, in my opinion, Tom, that could lead to more states going ahead and legalizing cannabis for not just medical purposes.
I think you're right. I think you're totally right. If you enable, you say, okay, here's your option, it's going to happen. I mean, it just makes sense. There's nothing wrong with this freaking plant, people. Like everybody else knows it, right?
If you have a knowledge of the plant, knowledge, understanding, and experience of the plant, you are not in favor of its criminal prohibition. It's pure ignorance. It is a policy of pure ignorance, and then that's where it came from. That's how it continues. So, Tammy, I wanted to thank you so much and get out there and, best of luck. It's probably going to be just jam-packed filled with you're going to fundraisers or what's your get out the vote strategy for the next week?
Just talking, doing more podcasts, doing more on-air live interviews that go with my capacity as the pardon attorney. And, a lot of people ask me the same questions that why I am eager and I'm running for Congress here in Texas District 6 is the same reason why I quit the Department of Justice after 12 years. Those same reasons, me going so hard for the legalization of cannabis when I don't even smoke, okay? Nice. It's so that we can increase ownership in this industry and get rid of these silly rules and the barriers to ownership from so many underrepresented groups. And when I say underrepresented groups, there's a lot of individuals that fall into that category. So early voting is happening now. The election is May 1st. That is Ellis County, Navarro County, and Tarrant County. Tammy Allison.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thanks so much.